In my last video, we talked about the reasons people don't buy Saabs. Well, this is a video explaining why you probably should buy a Saab. So the first reason to buy a Saab is there is a lot of owners out there and a lot of forums that can help you with any problems you're having with your car. So there's a lot of Facebook groups such as the Yorkshire Saab group, there's the Saab Owners Club GB, and a couple of little ones smattered here and there. There's a big community following these cars, and they can help you with finding cars, recommending cars you should buy, giving you reasons why you should buy one car over the other. And normally if you have a issue that you can't fix, there's normally someone who either knows how to fix it or knows someone who knows how to fix it. It's all really helpful, and you will have a lot of support with your Saab ownership. So the second reason you should buy a Saab is because there's a lot more aftermarket support out there than you would think. Obviously, being a bit of a quirky car that isn't really chose much for modification, you think the parts wouldn't really exist, but there's actually a lot more parts you can fit to a car like this than you would expect. So this car in the past has had a maximum design low-line kit, so front splitter, side skirts, rear diffuser. I'll put a photo of that up there right now. This car also has currently fitted a set of IBAC lowering springs, but there's also stuff like coilovers. KW does coilovers, H&R does coilovers, I'm pretty sure. And there's also BC that does coilovers for these cars. That is something we're going to pick up sometime, hopefully in the near future. There is also a guy making a fitting kit to fit Alpha Brembos or Megane RS Brembos, which is something I'm going to do hopefully in the near future. I actually have the fitting kit for that. And then there's also sort of the universal stuff you can do. There's such things as Apple CarPlay, which is a really good modification to fit to these cars. You can fit 5x112 wheels, which is much better than the original Saab and Vauxhall 5x110 fitment, which really limits the amount of wheels you can choose. There isn't many options for 5x110, but you can fit 5x112 wheels with wobble bolts or fitment bolts as they're called. So I have a set of Koenig Amperforms fitted to my car because you can get those in 5x112. So the aftermarket modification catalogue for these cars is actually quite good. So another reason I believe you should buy a Saab is because, as I said in the last video, these cars are really cheap right now. So you can get something like a lower spec 1.8 or 1.9 diesel quite cheaply at the moment, around 1,000 to 1,500 if you get a bit of a higher mileage, bit more, maybe a bit more ropey on the bodywork. What I would recommend to buy is a 2-litre turbo aero. You get 210 brake horsepower and you get turbocharging. And you also get a nicer looking body kit and nicer wheels than something like a 1.8 linear. So these cars are a lot cheaper to run than my 2.8 V6. They're a bit cheaper to tax. I believe that's the Saab to buy if you're buying your first car. It's a really good car for the money and a really good value proposition as a used car. So the final two reasons I want to talk about buying a Saab is actually for the person that's maybe thinking about buying a Saab as their first car. So this is for the parents that might be watching as well. So obviously a car like this, you get a lot of crumple zones, a lot of airbags and a lot of car around you. But Saab actually invented two very clever systems. The first was the Saab active head restraint. So in a rear end collision, the car and the seat would sense this was happening, and it would move the headrest up and forward to prevent whiplash injuries. The second invention was Saab IDIS. It would work out if you were in a normal, non-demanding situation, and it would allow phone calls and it would allow sort of messages on the dash. But if it realised you were in a quite demanding situation, maybe sort of avoiding something or hitting the brakes hard, it wouldn't let anything come up on the dashboard, and this was to reduce distraction in the car. Now, obviously, Saab had safety at the forefront of everything they designed, and these were two very clever safety systems. So the final reason I want to talk about buying a Saab is actually they're a lot cheaper to insure than you think. So buying a first car in the UK and insuring it is actually very, very expensive. So people normally get something like a Fiesta or a Corsa, something with a small engine, a 1.2 or 1 litre engine. The smallest engine you can get in a Saab 93 is a 1.8 non-turbocharged. Now obviously being a first time driver, you would think, well, a 1.8 is going to be just massively expensive to insure. Now it obviously depends on where you live, but insurance and insurers mostly calculate prices on risk. So there is data on obviously crashes involving younger drivers, and a younger driver is normally driving something like a Fiesta or a Corsa. They're sort of what you'd expect as a first car. So there's a lot of crash data, but there's not really much crash data on a car like this as a 18-year-old. So that means it's actually a bit more cheaper than you'd expect. When I insured my 2006 Saab 93, which was a 1.8 non-turbocharged, it cost me 1,300 quid with a black box, compared to something like £2,000 for a Corsa or a Fiesta. And again, going back to safety, an engine like this can get you out of situations a lot better. So you'd find the first car normally at about 80 to 90 horsepower. The 1.8 non-turbo has 120. So yeah, if you think about buying a first car, have a look at one of these first. So those are the 5 reasons I believe you should buy a Saab. If this video helped you, please comment down below, give the video a like, and subscribe if you want to see more like this. What do you? There, go. Okay, sit. I love you, but I'm busy, okay? Go see Mum, go on. You really are impossible.